So NNT's numbers needed to treat, and that actually it reveals how statistics have been misused for the purposes of marketing and exaggerating the benefit of a drug in the minds of doctors, and therefore in the way that patients receive information. And what the numbers needed to treat does, it actually breaks down. This is, by the way, this is still from unverified data. So even the results that have been of drug trials that have been manipulated to try and show an extra benefit, even they have been misrepresented, right? And what it shows is, for example, if you take a statin, and you're somebody that is maybe at risk of a heart attack but hasn't had a heart attack or hasn't been diagnosed with a severe blockage, the benefit of a statin over a 5-year period, based upon trials conducted by the drug industry that hasn't been independently verified, so likely still an exaggeration, and that's why we need further data, only shows a 1% benefit. In other words, you have to treat 100 people for one person to get the benefit of it preventing a heart attack or stroke without prolonging your life. If you've had a heart attack, the benefits are slightly more, 1 in 39 in preventing another heart attack and 1 in 83 in actually saving your life or prolonging your life. And the purpose of that is that information, and that's what came from Choosing Wisely, by the way. So this is not even just my opinion. This was something that the Medical Royal Colleges put out in 2015, saying medical practice needs to change, medical training needs to change, so that every doctor is communicating these statistics for patients with the purposes of true informed consent and medical ethics. Think about that. That was 2015. That's there. People can look it up. It's not been retracted. It's in the BMJ. It's got all these other authors on the, in very prominent positions, and that still hasn't been implemented into clinical practice, Neil. Why? Because when patients are fully informed, they choose less treatments. And what does that mean? It means less money and less profits for the drug industry. It might even true informed consent taking place in the NHS in this way for all drugs, it would collapse the drug industry overnight. And they're not going to let that happen very easily.
I'm sure, I know you'll have run across brother and sister Casey and Callie Means, who are now, they're now coming in the context of Robert Kennedy Jr. and the Trump campaign and so on and so on. But one of the many things that Casey has said that really got me was there's no more valuable commodity in the US, let's say, than a sick child.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh my God, where has the first to do no harm,
absolutely
ethical, treatment of people got to when you can say that?
Yeah, I would go beyond that, Neil. Actually, I would say that they actually are going to. The way that disease is diagnosed is often related to thresholds of markers in the blood or certain correlation of symptoms, etc. The drug industry want to make people who are otherwise well, make them believe they're at risk or they're sicker than they are. And that's how they expand the use of their drugs. So we've seen that, for example, with the lowering of the thresholds for doctors to prescribe cholesterol-lowering drugs, for example, over the years, purely to expand the use of their drugs. And I debated, and in fact, this was also originally part of the filming, but it didn't come in the end. Maybe we'll use it as a separate bit later on for people to watch. I debated the CEO of AstraZeneca and the Cambridge University Union in 2019. And the motion that was put forward, and by the way, the BMJ asked me at that point, so the so-called pariah by 2019 is still being asked by the BMJ to be a good advocate and represent them, if you like. There was three versus three, and I was first up against the CEO of AstraZeneca on the motion they put forward, which was we need more new drugs, which in effect meant we need more people taking more drugs. So from a business model perspective, the ideal scenario, Neil, is to get children started on statins. In fact, there's been a news story only a few weeks ago saying, I think the Mail Online reported it, give 15-year-olds statins to slash heart attack rates. I actually predicted this. I said this is going to happen next. I said this months ago. I said this well after the COVID vaccine had been rolled out, saying they're going to be seen as the heroes of saving the world, saving millions of lives from this COVID vaccine, which is basically false. I don't believe that's the case at all. I think it's complete and total nonsense. But the perception for many people is out there that they have done this. They're going to capitalize on that by now getting more people taking more drugs. And the ideal scenario is to get children or babies on drugs. And Neil, what they would do next, and this is why people need to stand up, is the next phase of manipulating the law is to then get to a situation where your child can't go to school unless they're taking a statin.